I have very little trust in institutions since about 2021, and I think you should be very skeptical of them as well. Back in 2021, I got the COVID vaccine and I ended up with a heart attack. How did this happen? Let's start from the beginning. Who was I at that point in time? I was in my mid-30s and I worked out 5 to 7 days a week running. Now, in 2021, the vaccines were already out for a little bit, but when they were first released, I was a little bit cautious. I waited it out for a little bit for a couple of reasons. Number one was to allow the vulnerable groups, like old people or people who are terminally ill, to be able to get priority because there were so few of them in the beginning. And then they would be able to get the shots as was needed. And then I would also be able to sit it out and see if there were any negative side effects that came about from that initial group of people getting vaccinated. As to me, when it first came out, it seemed like it was a little bit too fast from when we were all being locked down for COVID for it to have been fully clinically trialed. Little did I know, no vaccines are clinically trialed. You can look it up for yourself. They just don't do them. During this time, when I was waiting, I was getting pressure from multiple groups. First pressure, and this is probably the least, was from some of my friends. There were a few that would, oh yeah, well, I already got my shot. Or, you can't go to this event unless it's fully checked that you're fine. There's just a lot of pressure I felt that this was the right thing to do and that you should get it done. But like I said, this was the most minimal amount of pressure that I think that I faced. But I felt like it still was being pressured in that direction. The second place that I felt pressure from was my family. There were multiple family members. One family member, whenever I would talk to them, they would, oh yeah, we got the shot. Have you yet? Oh, you should. It'll protect you. Why aren't you getting it? Why haven't you gotten it yet? And this would happen literally every single time, or it felt like every single time I would talk to them. And again, it was not great, and I do feel like it came from a good place, right, where they just want to protect me. But at the same time, it was something that I always kind of pushed back on that. I'm not sure that I really need it. Again, I would run 5 to 7 days a week. I'm very healthy. I never get sick. So I didn't really feel too much like I needed it. But, having your family kind of constantly mentioning it was not great. And then there was another family member where I was visiting them on a work trip, and this was before anything happened. And they decided that we were going to have an outside brunch, which I get it, right? They had just had a child, so I was trying to be respectful. Outside brunch is totally fine. But they made me walk around through the side of the yard to get to the backyard to have brunch. I couldn't even walk through the house, which, I was really upset about at the time. Now I've kind of moved past it because I just say whatever. But at the time I was really upset about it. And it's not like, I could see one way where, okay, he was on a plane, he's had exposure maybe, we just don't want him around the baby or in the vicinity of where the baby is going to be. Okay, but they had another family member who was visiting them and staying with them who also traveled in from out of state. So to me, and I guess the only thing that I could make as an argument for it is that I hadn't been vaccinated yet, and I'm assuming this person probably did. But it was just very rude, in my opinion, especially looking back now, knowing what we know, that it doesn't stop someone from getting COVID, and it doesn't stop transmission, for them to treat me that way. And again, it was just another pressure that, hey, you need to get this done, because otherwise we're essentially going to treat you like a plague rat. That's what it felt like. Another area of pressure was from my work. I'm sure like many people, my work didn't outright mandate that we had to get vaccinated, But it did have as a policy that we would be, one, required to wear masks into the office at all times if you weren't vaccinated. And then two, you had to get tested every single week to be able to go in. Which, what a huge barrier that is, and what an inconvenience that you have to go get this done every single week in order to go into the office. It doesn't seem really all that fair to me. So, with all of these factors, I decided, let's take a look and see if maybe it makes sense to get it done, or if there's any threats to having it, or side effects. And so what I did is I went in and searched on Google for side effects, and it turned up no results. So to me, I just thought, okay, then this is safe. So what's the harm in getting it? And this is kind of where my mindset was on the entire thing. And I've said this many times since talking about it, and I still hold it to be true. Back then, and this was still fairly early on, I still believe that COVID came from a lab. I think that the overwhelming evidence that it started in Wuhan and that there's a Wuhan coronavirus lab in the same city is just too big of a coincidence. So for me, you have two thoughts in your head. Number one, am I particularly concerned about getting sick? Not usually. But then two is that this is a man-made pathogen. And if it is man-made, and it was created through gain of function, and if you know anything about gain of function is basically they take some sort of disease and they mutate it to make it either more spreadable or more deadly. And because at the time they were burning research or deleting it all so that no one could get a hold of the fact that this is actually where it came from, I'm not really sure what it is, what's going on with it. No one in the general public is. So you have to be concerned that something like this is actually dangerous. And just calling that I was right at the time, now it's been proven that it came from a lab. So yeah, if you think that this is a man-made pathogen or a man-improved upon pathogen, you should be concerned. And then, okay, yeah, if they've been working on making it, maybe they've been working on a cure and these go hand in hand. And so maybe I should take it. And tying that in with, again, the search on Google Chrome, on searching on google.com for side effects and turning up no results, well then, sure, why not? I'll get it. It's been out for a little bit now. Let's do it. So I went in to get the vaccine on a Tuesday. I decided, I'm working out every day, but I'm going to take a day off because I got it in the shoulder and my arm really hurt on Wednesday. I was like, I can't do anything. This is, I'm just going to take a day to rest and relax. And then Thursday came around and I just went on an easy 3-mile jog. It was very slow. This is not out of my wheelhouse for the types of workouts that I do. It was very simple. It's not a big deal. I barely even worked up a sweat. And then midday Friday, I'm sitting at my desk and I start having pains in my chest, just sitting here, not doing anything. And so I sat and I was working, and then finally the pain got so bad, it basically felt like I was having a knife stabbed into the middle of my chest. I decided to go lay down in the middle of the day, and it was somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour. And it was so out of character for me that actually my significant other came in and was like, what is going on? What are you doing? And so I told her. But anyway, after 30 minutes to an hour, it went away. And then that next Monday, I had a work trip where I was going to meet with my whole team. So kind of put it out of my mind. It went away. There were no more issues on Saturday or Sunday. Went on the work trip, which is probably not the brightest, right? Because, stressing on the body with flying and everything else. Ran while I was there one time, again, another easy run. And it was all week. Came back, was waiting around, and I thought, you know what, I should probably go get this checked out, because this is probably not good, and I should probably see if this is something that I need to continue worrying about, or if I need to worry about, or if I can just move on from it and it's water under the bridge. Plus, the other thing is I only got one shot at this point in time, and I was due for the second, and I wasn't really sure I wanted to do it. So I said, before I even entertain getting the second shot, I want to see a medical professional, and let's see what's going on with this. So I got in touch with the family practice. It took them a couple days before they could get me in. And then when I went in, they did an EKG on me. And if you don't know what that is, basically they hooked up a bunch of you've probably seen it in movies or TV, where they hook up all the little sticky things to you, and then they take your heartbeat, basically see what's going on, because it was a heart issue that I had, so they were just going to check my pulse and what that looks like. And it came back irregular. And they were so concerned about it that they said, hey, we're going to send you to a cardiologist. And from there, I was referred to a cardiologist, and booked time. Took another few days before they could get me in. And this is where I'll just say the medical system is so stupid. Literally, they already had an EKG on file from the practice. I don't know why it wasn't, or if it was just sent over, why they did. So anyway, I came in, and the first thing was they didn't even do, I thought they were just going to do imaging right there and then. But no, they did another EKG, which also came back irregular. And then they said, okay, we're going to have to schedule a follow-up appointment to have you come back in for imaging, which it's like, now we're just wasting time. Like, it's already like 3 weeks, 4 weeks out from the time of my heart attack, from, me delaying, then taking time to get in, then taking time to go to the cardiologist initially, then taking time again to get into the cardiologist for imaging. So it's like, all right, now we're so far out, like, are we even going to find anything useful? So I go in, and I go into the radiologist, and he's doing the imaging, and 3/4 of the way through the imaging, he's like, why are you in here? And I told him, I think I talked to the doctor, and he thinks I had a heart attack, which was caused by the COVID-19 vaccination. And then the cardiologist proceeded to tell me that he has seen many young and otherwise healthy men coming in for imaging, and that there was no way that he was going to end up getting it himself, which was kind of annoying, because again, if this is so common that the radiologist is seeing it, well then why could I find nothing when I search for it? This is strange. You would think someone would write something about this. But that was the first time where I heard something where this is a lot more common than I had even heard of before. And why is this not being shared so people can know? But anyway, got it all done, and then went to meet with the cardiologist afterwards to review it, and okay, what are we going to do? What's the plan forward? And he basically suggested that I still get the second shot, despite the known, even at the time, fact that people were having more severe reactions to the second shot. And so my mind goes to, what's more severe than a heart attack? Like, what are you suggesting, man? Like, I don't, this sounds like an awful idea to me. But he said, just don't do anything and then eat a bunch of Advil, which I'm severely adverse to taking, especially significant amounts of medication to try and prevent the side effects from another medication, I guess, if you want to call the vaccine that. But the actual outcome was that I had swelling in my heart. And then when I talked to the family practice doctor, who was awesome, by the way, he was saying it probably was myocarditis or pericarditis, one or the other. And he said I should not do it at all. And oh, by the way, just a side point, the cardiologist, was not in shape whatsoever. So for him to be giving me this advice, it's like, what are you talking about, man? Like, yeah, I understand that you're probably afraid of it because you're old and out of shape, but like, you need to have the right mindset for your patient. Not why are you even a doctor at this point in time if you're not going to take a holistic look at your patient and give them the correct advice? What if I died from getting the second shot? But like I said, thankfully the family practice doctor was great, and he actually used to be the doctor for the baseball team, the USA baseball team in the Olympics. So great guy, has a lot of connections. But he actually told me as well that he knew someone who was an ASU volleyball player who had severely negative side effects from the vaccine, and she could no longer compete in sports. So again, there were just more and more things that kind of left me outraged about how none of these stories are able to come to the surface and be told. So then, after all this happens, I basically decided to go back on and do another Google search because, as I mentioned a few times through the story, that's really what kind of stuck in my head, because that was the deciding factor that, okay, there's no negative side effects. I'm going to go get the vaccine. So Googled it again, no results. Then I downloaded a browser extension. It's called DuckDuckGo. And there are multiple different ones that you can get. But essentially what it does is it de-filters the search results. So whereas Google says, okay, here's things that we're going to include and here's things we're not, it's just straight from the tap. So if I search for side effects from COVID, as I did in this instance, guess what? I got results of side effects from COVID mentioning myocarditis, pericarditis, heart attacks. And so, and again, mostly focusing in or being affected by it were young, healthy men, which, yes, mid-30s is not the youngest, but again, I worked out so much that my heart health and my immune system health is probably that of a much younger person. But this left me incensed. I was so mad and I literally did it one right after the other to make sure that, there wasn't like this was a month ago, well, now things are filtering through. No, I did it literally Google search, download DuckDuckGo search. No results, multiple results. So, very pissed off at Google. I actually had a Pixel phone at the time, and since then I've upgraded, and I vow to never basically use as few Google products as possible. As I say that, you're probably watching this on YouTube, so yeah. You can only avoid so much, I suppose. But what am I left with? I'm left with a heart attack. I've had blackouts and even strokes during periods of elevated heart rate since then. It cost me $1,000 in medical bills. and all for something that was touted as safe and effective. And you would think that even out of those three things, if it was the U.S. medical system's fault, that why should I have to pay $1,000 out of my pocket to do this? It's just insane to me. How is that fair? And so this experience has completely shattered my institutional trust. I hope, after hearing my story, you feel the same way. I think you should be very critical of things that you see and hear and are encouraged to do. And you should think about critically, what is the motives behind this happening? And I think there were profit motives from the medical companies. And again, I got a crash course now that you learn, they don't have to do any clinical testing on any of this before they just release it out in the wild. Young and healthy people are probably not susceptible, and I think that's been proven out now. Well, I know that's been proven out now, that basically it was just old people with multiple comorbidities that were actually affected by this. And the other thing that really offended me too was I had a family member who basically made the comment that, if this is how you reacted to the vaccine, well, imagine how you would have reacted to COVID. Well, I'm pretty sure I had COVID before getting the vaccine. I know I've had COVID after the vaccine, and I haven't had any sort of effects like I have from the vaccine. So suffices to say that no, that's just an awful, it's just, I think, I found it deeply offensive, but I understand that they probably were trying to make themselves feel better about trying to coax me into getting it or treating me poorly because I didn't have it before. They want to have cognitive dissonance that, yes, you had a heart attack, and I don't blame any of them, again, because if I were really to blame anyone, it would be the search results, because that was the straw that, hey, okay, it's good to do it. But, of course, if the tables were reversed, I would feel awful. And so I understand, like I said, that they probably felt bad and they wanted to disillusion themselves of any sort of blame, which, again, I don't blame them. But at the end of the day, my advice to anyone is make your own decisions. Make sure you can get your hands on unbiased information before you make the decision. And then ask yourself, who has what to gain from me getting this, whatever it is, procedure. I've had friends who were told that they should have surgery when all they needed to do was stretch because they were needing a meniscus surgery and they didn't. There's a lot of examples that I could state. I'll spare you them, but where it's just someone with a hammer hitting a nail. Because when you have a hammer, every problem is a nail, and you just want to hammer it. And so take a look at alternative methods to get things done that are best for you, best for your long-term health, and that's really the best advice I can give. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, hit the like button. Comment if you have your own story about something that may have happened to you during COVID or from the vaccines. I feel like it's nice to be able to commiserate with other people who have had similar experiences. And if you like this type of content or you're interested in thought-provoking topics such as this one, leave a subscription. That'll really help my channel growth. Anyway, if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.